Hello everyone, I'm Heather. Hopefully you've had a chance to watch at least some of the videos, our most recent series of travel vlogs from the trip that we took to Walt Disney World over Thanksgiving week 2023. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 mistakes or regrets from that trip, as well as 3 kind of happy, serendipitous things, or things that I wasn't sure ahead of time were going to work out okay, but ended up being kind of a pleasant surprise. If you haven't seen it already, you might want to go back and watch this video because that'll give you some context for some of the things I'm going to talk about today. First, let me share with you the 3 mistakes that we made, or kind of regrets. They were mistakes that made me regret these things about the trip. The first one is that we did not get to ride Tron. We have been watching them build Tron for years now, and we have been eagerly anticipating getting to ride on Tron. It opened between the last time we were there in Thanksgiving of 2022 and this trip in Thanksgiving of 2023. It opened in between there, and we were very excited about getting to ride Tron when we went the next time. Unfortunately, our only time on this trip at Magic Kingdom was at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, which is technically an after-hours event. It's a special, separately ticketed event, and we had very limited time. It was difficult to fit in everything that we wanted to do at the party. You could not just stand in line for Tron during Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. The only way you could ride Tron during the party was to get a spot in the virtual queue. And the virtual queue opened at 6 p.m. and I completely forgot about it. Just at 6 p.m., I think we were just walking from one place to the other in the park actually, and Ben and I had sat down across from Pirates of the Caribbean while Megan rode Pirates of the Caribbean. And I realized then at about 6:15 that I had completely forgotten about the virtual queue for Tron. And by the time we looked at it, of course, all the spots in the virtual queue were gone and there was no chance of us getting to ride Tron. So that was a real disappointment because that was our only opportunity to ride Tron on that trip. And I honestly don't know when we're going to be able to go back to Walt Disney World. Megan and I had hoped to go at the end of this month when she had a break between her J-term class and her spring semester starting, but it's looking more and more likely that we definitely are not going to be able to take that trip. It's only a couple weeks away. Even if we had done that, we didn't have any plans to go to Magic Kingdom on that trip because our focus was going to be just going to Festival of the Arts at Epcot. So we missed our chance to ride Tron, and I don't know when we're going to be back to Walt Disney World next to ride it. So that is one mistake that I made on this trip. The second mistake was we all kind of just forgot. At one point when we were walking around Epcot at our one day that we were at Epcot, we came upon, and I'm not even sure what it was, like the outside of where the new walk-through interactive water attraction Moana Journey of Water is. It was like something on the outside of it, and there was a queue there. We didn't get close enough to determine what exactly that was, but we said, oh, we'll come back to this later. I had really wanted to see it at night because the video and pictures I had seen of the new Moana attraction, it looked really neat at night. And so I was like, oh, let's just come back to this later. And we all agreed, yeah, we'll skip it for now. We were on our way to go ride something. And we completely forgot about it. And then we finished riding all the rides in the front half of the park. And then we went back to World Showcase to do things back there. And we never came back out to the front of the park again. We were just in World Showcase for the rest of the time we were at Epcot until it closed. Except for when we came up to ride Test Track. And we went straight to Test Track and straight back to ride Frozen Ever After right before the park closed. And we just completely forgot about going back to Moana Journey of Water. And we left back out through the International Gateway, which was the same way we had come in because we had to take the Skyliner back to Pop Century Resort. So we totally forgot about it. And that is a brand new attraction that I was also very much looking forward to seeing and experiencing. And we didn't get to do that either because we just completely forgot to go back to it. So that was actually quite disappointing as well. Both of those things were pretty disappointing because we forgot about them and made those mistakes and missed out on our chance to do those. The third, not necessarily a mistake, but regret that I have from this last trip is something that I was kind of had forced on me because of something I talked about in that video, which was we had real financial constraints on this trip. And in trying to save money, we gave up a park day. We gave up having really a third full park day because we really only had 2 full park days, one at Hollywood Studios and one at Epcot. We only got to go to Magic Kingdom for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. We didn't actually have tickets to go to Magic Kingdom like on a regular park day, and we didn't go to Animal Kingdom at all. Because we gave up a park day, a couple things happened. One is we didn't get to do everything we wanted to do because we didn't get to do everything we would have liked to do in Magic Kingdom because we weren't there long enough. We like to have 2 days at Epcot, or we would have liked to go to Animal Kingdom. I mean, any of those. But instead, to try to save money, because Disney World tickets are very expensive, and for the 3 of us for 1 day was over $500. So every additional day that we spent in a park was another like $500 that I didn't have. So instead, we went to Gaylord Palms on the 1 day that we weren't in a park to go to Ice, which I made a video about. I'll link it up here. I'm glad we got to go to that to see what it was like, but we didn't spend very much time there because it was very, very, very cold and it wasn't very comfortable to stay in the ice sculpture exhibit, which was a Charlie Brown Christmas. It was really neat to see. But I mean, we were in and out of there very quickly because you couldn't really stand to physically be in there very long because it was so cold. That was the same day that Megan left her coat behind at Gaylord Palms and had to take an extra trip in the taxi to go back and find it. And that was also the day that we ended up going to Disney Springs and our experience at Disney Springs, which I also made a video about. We did get some cute photos from the photo session that we had at the PhotoPass studio there. But other than that, our experience at Disney Springs on that day was not positive at all and was really kind of frustrating. So we didn't have a very good day that day. And Megan even said to me, I wish we would have just gone to another park. And unfortunately, I just didn't have the money to go to another park. So that was really kind of a bummer. I would have rather given up that day of going to Ice at Gaylord Palms and going to Disney Springs and trying to see Wish, which we did not get to do. It was just not a very fun day for us and had another park day instead. Either a full day at Magic Kingdom or a second day at Epcot or a day at Animal Kingdom. So I wish we had had more money so that we could have done that instead. So those were the 3 regrets or the 3 mistakes that we made on this last trip. I'll give you kind of a lesson for each of those that you can hopefully use when you go to Walt Disney World. One is, if you want to be able to get on a ride is new or you've been really looking forward to or something like that, that was unusual that was the only way we could get on Tron. I'll have to check on that. But I think if we had gone not at the party, if we'd gone on a regular park day, we could have also bought Tron as an individual Lightning Lane. Or is it only a virtual queue to get on Tron? I'm not sure. But if the only way you can get on a particular ride is a virtual queue, you got to make sure you're ready to be able to try to get a spot in that virtual queue. You've got to make sure you educate yourself ahead of time on if there's certain special or newer rides or high demand rides that have some special way that you have to get on them. Make sure you know what that is ahead of time so you can be prepared and you don't miss your chance to ride it like we did. The Moana, I don't know what we could have done there. We literally just forgot. We were busy doing other things and we just completely forgot to go back to it, probably because it's brand new and we had never experienced it before. So I guess what I would say there is it might be a good idea if there's something new like that that you want to make sure to see and that you don't want to miss. Maybe go to it first thing so you know you did it and you know you got to see it or experience it or whatever it is. And don't put it off until later because you might run out of time, the park might close, whatever. And then for the third thing, wishing we had gotten another park day, that came down to money, which I already had to do so many things to try to save money for this trip. I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is you got to take plenty of money. You have to have enough money. And in our situation, that would have meant having to postpone the trip until later. And I'm just really running into a problem right now. Ben finally going back to school in person because he had been home with me for 3 years. and we had a lot more flexibility when he was home with me because he could go travel anytime we wanted. There was no conflict with school because he was on a self-paced, independent online schooling thing. And he also worked way ahead all the time. So he would be completely done with the semester long before the semester at the actual school was over. And so we had a lot of freedom during that time. And we definitely took advantage of it. We took a lot of trips during that time when he and earlier Megan was also doing online school. And they were working at their own pace. That was really nice. And now that they're both, all my kids are in school. My son's in law school. He can't miss any school at all under any circumstances. And he lives in halfway across the country. My daughter is in college. She really can't miss school at all. And now Ben is back in person in high school. And he hasn't missed any school at all since he's been back. My kids are pretty good about having pretty much perfect attendance, really. And unfortunately, they don't have any of the same breaks. They don't have any of the same breaks except at Christmas and at summer, which are 2 times that I really don't want to travel because I don't like the heat of the summer. None of us do. And summer and Christmas are the 2 most expensive times of the year to go anywhere. That's really unfortunate, and it's really bumming me out right now that we don't have that freedom that we had for quite a few years there, where we could pretty much travel whenever we wanted to. We could go when it was cheaper. We could go when things were less crowded, and it wasn't a big deal. But now we can't do that anymore. We're in the same boat as most other Americans, honestly. Scheduling and having enough money for family trips can be tough. Okay, now let me share with you the 3 happy surprises or pleasant things that I wasn't really expecting to go well, but they went better than expected. So the first thing was using Mears Connect. We had used Magical Express before, and quite a few people have asked me about this in the comments. Here's the thing. Mears Connect is exactly the same thing as Magical Express. And in fact, the Mears Connect bus that we were on from the airport to Pop Century when we went down there was a Disney bus. And the way that we know that was because it was actually a Disney Cruise Line bus. It still had the Disney Cruise Line little logo all over the upholstery. So all they had done was taken a Disney Cruise Line bus that they weren't using anymore for Disney Cruise Line, and they painted the Mears Connect stuff on the outside of it. How could they do that, you're wondering? Did they buy the buses from Disney? No. Disney's Magical Express was always operated by Mears. Mears has always provided the buses and the drivers and everything and run Disney's Magical Express back when it was Disney's Magical Express. It's exactly the same, okay? It's the same buses, it's the same drivers, it's the same company running it. The only difference is Disney stopped paying them for that and instead turned the cost of the bus service from the airport to your resort over to the guest. And so Mears had no choice because Disney wasn't paying them for it anymore. Mears has no choice but to charge the guest for the bus service. So it's exactly the same thing. It's just that now you're paying Mears instead of Disney paying Mears for you. That's what the difference is. And so because Disney isn't paying them anymore, they took Disney's name off of it. So now the buses are all painted in Mears colors and with the Mears logo and everything. But the service itself is exactly the same, operated by exactly the same people, same buses, everything as it was before. So you're not going to notice anything different. It's in the same location in the airport, all of that. Check out more details in this video. You will not notice anything different in the friendliness of the drivers, the fact that they're still providing fun Disney entertainment, trivia and stuff on the bus on the way there. It takes exactly the same amount of time. The buses are the same buses. So, it's exactly the same as Magical Express. And I feel that it's actually very reasonably priced. It was $100, $101.25 or something, for the 3 of us round trip. So that was 3 people going from the airport to Pop Century and back again. So if you divide that into 2 trips, that's $50 a trip. Divide that by 3 people, that was $18 or something. It's not very expensive. So I really didn't have any trouble at all with using Mears Connect. They made it very easy for me. It's easy to book online. It's very quick and easy in the airport. They even sent me, when we got to the airport, as soon as our plane landed, They sent me a text with my boarding pass again, even though I already had it. They sent me another one because they know that I had just arrived at the airport and they wanted me to have it, right at the top of my texts or emails, however I got it. So I had it ready to go when I got to the check-in desk. So it's a very simple service to use. I think it's pretty reasonably priced. It is definitely much less expensive than a taxi, an Uber, a Lyft, some other kind of ride share, or renting a car and having to pay for parking and gas and all of that. I mean, even us who did go off-site, we went to Gaylord Palms to go to ICE. We used a taxi, also run by Mears, by the way. We used a taxi to get there. That was also very cheap, and it took less than 5 minutes. You can still get around if you're, going to be in that general area of Disney World, even if you do want to go off property for something. I still say you don't need to have a car. Now, I do like having a car. It is convenient. But now that I've experienced both fairly close together, I realize that I'd be happy to do it either way. And it was really nice to have them load and unload my suitcase for me and us not have to lift it and, not have to worry about traffic or getting lost or anything like that. It was really nice. So that was a change I had made. I had planned to rent a car, but again, to save money for this trip, I changed it from renting a car to taking Mears Connect, which saved me like $400 or $500 by doing that, not including gas. And it made it really easy and relaxing for me. So that was a positive, happy surprise that I was really pleased with using Mears Connect. Found out that it's exactly the same as Disney's Magical Express. There's no change to your experience, and was very pleased with my decision to cancel the rental car and use Mears Connect instead. Okay, the second positive thing was staying at Pop Century. I had wanted to stay at a moderate resort. We wanted to stay at Caribbean Beach Resort or Port Orleans. And I talked about in a previous video that it didn't really make a lot of sense for us to stay at Port Orleans without having a rental car. There are certain places, certain resorts on Disney property that having a car definitely helps. And that would be the ones that don't have a secondary means of Disney transportation besides buses. So if the only way you can get to a park from your Disney resort is a bus, then I do strongly encourage you to rent a car. Because some of those resorts, and like Port Orleans is one of them, although you can get to Disney Springs from Port Orleans, both French Quarter and Riverside, on a boat, but you can't get to a park from there except on a bus. Another example would be Animal Kingdom Lodge. Even though that's a deluxe resort, the only way you can get anywhere from Animal Kingdom Lodge on Disney transportation is a bus. So in those cases, sometimes the bus transportation, it can be a long bus ride, especially at the end of the night if you've been at a park all day. And if the distance between the park you went to and your resort is pretty far, you might be crammed in there pretty tight at the end of the night, and a lot of you might have to stand. So if that's an issue for you when you're one of those resorts where you don't have an alternative means of transportation, then it might be a good idea to have a car. But for us, being at Pop Century was actually great because we were on the Skyliner line. So we could take the Skyliner to both Hollywood Studios and Epcot, which, like I mentioned already, were our 2 full park days. So we were able to take the Skyliner there and back. The other thing I kind of figured out on this trip was I think I liked being at Pop Century better than Caribbean Beach because I made the observation I really like the Skyliner. And a lot of people really do. And if you enjoy riding the Skyliner, you kind of want that longer ride. And if you want the longer ride on the Skyliner, you want to be staying at Disney's Pop Century Resort or Disney's Art of Animation Resort, because those two are the farthest away from where a park would be. If you stay at Caribbean Beach, it's like really quick to get from Caribbean Beach Resort to Hollywood Studios. It's a little farther to Epcot, but it's not as far as if you were staying at Pop Century or Art of Animation. So if you want more time on the Skyliner, which I think is kind of a fun ride in itself, you want to be farther away. And the other thing, I definitely would appreciate the larger rooms and the 2 sinks in the bathroom that they would have at like Caribbean Beach, for example, at a moderate resort. But Caribbean Beach is really spread out. Some of those moderate resorts like Caribbean Beach and Port Orleans Riverside, And even like some of the DVC resorts like Key West or Saratoga Springs, they're so massive. Like the footprint of the resort is just huge. And again, if you don't have a car, it might be a really long walk to your nearest bus stop. And it might also be a really long walk to like the main building of the resort, like where the food court is and stuff. So that's something to take into consideration, is the size of the resort itself. Pop Century is a little bit more, I mean, it has a number of buildings, but it's still not as big and spread out as Caribbean Beach Resort is. And it's a nice, pleasant walk to the main building, no matter what building you're staying in, because we've now stayed in the 50s, 80s, and 90s sections of Pop Century, and we didn't mind the walk to the main building for any of them. So overall, I was really happy with the fact that we ended up staying at Pop Century. I did that to save money and because of transportation, but I ended up being very pleased that we were staying there, and we didn't mind it at all. Okay, and then the third positive thing was that on this trip, I learned so much more about disability access when you have an ECV or a wheelchair in the parks. I had never even bothered trying to go on an ECV or wheelchair through the queue. And I had no idea that I could do that. And in some rides, you don't go through the queue. You know, some of them are really narrow and you wouldn't fit through there and stuff. But on every single attraction, they have a way for people in ECVs and wheelchairs to get all the way to where you board the ride. Now, on almost every ride, you are going to have to transfer. There are a few rides where you can take the wheelchair right onto the ride. You'll see those. Like, It's a Small World. There's a special boat that goes around that you roll your wheelchair right onto the boat, and then they just lock it in. You know, so there's some that are like that. But I didn't realize that they had a way to skip me right to the front of the line. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if we would have needed... No, we probably still wanted to use our lightning lanes, because there can be a significant, like Soarin', for example. There's a significant portion of the queue before you get to a cast member who had me go right up to where they had me get in my boarding group or whatever. I just had never tried that before. I don't know why we never thought of it, why we didn't realize that they're not gonna, you know, if you have mobility issues and like I had trouble standing, they're not gonna make you stand there and wait in line for an hour. Why would we be doing that? And so we had missed out. There's been several times that I've gone to Disneyland and Walt Disney World and Valley Fair and other places, Busch Gardens. I had an ECV and I had no idea I could go up to them and they would get me around that queue somehow. They have a way, even when you take your key from the ECV, they still have a way to move it. So they basically get you out of your ECV or your wheelchair right at where you board the ride. And then they have it waiting for you and ready to go when you get off the ride, which is usually in kind of a different place. So that was just like mind blown. We were so thrilled to discover that. I don't like having to use an ECV or a wheelchair, but now at least I know, and now you know, that if you do need to use an ECV or a wheelchair when you're at a Disney resort or probably a lot of other theme parks, the staff is trained to help you get right up to the ride without having to walk or stand in line and stuff like that. That was really a very positive discovery for us and made that day much easier for me. So there you go. Those were our 3 regrets and mistakes and 3 happy surprises that we had on our most recent trip to Walt Disney World. I hope that these were helpful to you and hopefully were things that you can use on a future trip that you're going to take there. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please be sure to give me a thumbs up down below. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming travel content, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and ding the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great day and safe travels.